In June 2025, South Asia braced for something it hadn't seen before. A monsoon unruly and relentless, pouring its fury on 2 billion lives. Forecasts warned of above normal rainfall across the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. Temperatures would climb nearly 2 degrees Celsius above average. World Meteorological Organization experts said the air would hold more moisture than ever. And the warnings weren't wrong. This is not climate fiction. It's the climate now. In Pakistan, the rains began in late June. They didn't stop. By mid-July, more than 170 people had died, half of them children. Homes collapsed, roads vanished, and waterborne disease loomed. In Nepal and India, hillsides slipped, rivers swelled, thousands fled landslides and floods. In Bihar alone, 82 lives were lost in 2 days. Crop fields turned into lakes, losses soared past $200 million. But what shook the world wasn't just water, it was how fast it came. The monsoon hit not in steady beats, but bursts. Waves of torrential downpour overwhelmed drainage, spilling across roads and railway lines, sweeping away entire communities. So tonight, we tell the story of South Asia's 2025 monsoon. Not a distant storm, but a reckoning. A season that broke rainfall records, shattered trust in infrastructure, and left behind scenes of devastation that feel unbearably personal. Rain used to arrive like a song, predictable, measured, welcome. In villages across Punjab, people prayed for it. Rain meant crops, it meant life. Farmers in Punjab could count on its timing. Children in Dhaka knew which weeks would bring the puddles. Builders, contractors, and emergency crews used to have a calendar, but not anymore. In 2025, the rain came early to Mumbai. It was the city's earliest monsoon since 2001. Then it came to Sri Lanka, then all at once to Nepal. There was no rhythm, just chaos. Trains were halted, flights grounded, relief convoys rerouted, all within 36 hours of the first major downpour. We're not just dealing with water, we're dealing with collapse. Collapse of predictability, of preparation, of systems that once worked. According to the India Meteorological Department, extreme rainfall events classified as over 204.5 millimeters in 24 hours increased 3 times in 2025 compared to the last 10-year average. When rainfall crosses 100 millimeters in just an hour, the ground can't hold it. Rivers spill over, roads disappear. That's when a warning turns into a flash flood. Not a slow swell, a sudden strike. Walls of water moving fast enough to uproot trees, sweep cars, and bury homes in seconds. So when the glacial lake burst in Tibet and the surge tore into Nepal's Rasua district, the water didn't just rise, it roared. And when the earth couldn't hold its breath any longer, it gave way. Entire slopes peeled off and thundered down, snapping trees like twigs, grinding rocks like sugar. People waded through waist-deep sludge just to get home. Many didn't make it. Then came the darkness. 8 million people lost electricity across India's northeast. Transformers drowned, power stations were silenced. In Bangladesh, over 300,000 people were evacuated. In South Korea, 13,000 more. In Afghanistan and Pakistan, there were no headlines, only tents, soaked blankets, and long waits. And after all of it, after the crashing hills, the fevered streets, the blackouts, what remains is silence. Silence after the last scream. Silence in parliaments and ministries. Silence in disaster offices where plans gathered dust. The warnings came, but they didn't arrive like alarms. They came like whispers, late, faint, easy to miss. And by the time anyone truly heard them, the water had already taken what it wanted. The World Meteorological Organization had said it clearly. Above average monsoon, early onset, dangerous intensities. Pakistan saw it coming. The model showed a rise in the Swat River, a surge that could overtake its banks. But forecasts don't stop for breakfast. 17 tourists, including children and elders, sat down by the river in Mingora. It was early, the air was cool. Someone poured tea, someone reached for bread. A family from Sialkot, another from Ardan. They shared laughter, checked their phones, and perhaps offered a quiet prayer. And then the water turned. It roared without warning. It rushed without time. They weren't standing in the river. They were at the edge where the breeze feels calmest, where you let your guard down, where the flood comes fastest. Ayan was 7. Ajwa 18, Charmin only 16, Rubina 45. 13 gone just like that. One man, Mohammed Mohsin, lived to speak. He said the flood hit too fast for anyone to run. Some tried while others just froze. Locals threw ropes, reached hands, dove into rapids. One man pulled 3 bodies out himself. Rescue crews arrived after the water calmed, but by then the current had already written their names in stone. This wasn't the only place. In Nepal, the SMS alert reached villagers after the roads had washed away. In India, bridges collapsed before barricades were put up. In Abbottabad, 2 children vanished into the swollen Dor River. Their names weren't even known. What good is a flood alert if there's no mobile signal? What use is a government order if it doesn't reach the street? Because a siren you don't hear isn't a siren at all. The monsoon didn't just fall, it struck. When it didn't test the strength of the people first. It tested everything we believed was unshakable, everything we thought could hold. In Kerala, the retaining wall didn't just crack. It split with a sound like thunder tearing through stone. A sound so violent that dogs stopped barking and birds vanished from the trees. Chunks of earth dropped into the flood below, pulling rebar and broken concrete with it, as if the ground itself had grown tired of pretending to hold. In Gilgit, the mountain roads didn't collapse all at once. They curled upward first, like paper lifting from fire, before folding under their own weight. The tarred surface buckled and then peeled back, revealing rivers of mud that gushed into villages below. What was once a path became a scar, deep and gaping, carved by rain with the precision of a blade. Kathmandu didn't stand a chance. Within hours, the drainage gave out. Water climbed stairwells, sewage bubbled from street grates, electrical sparks hissed from transformers submerged chest-deep in floodwater. By midnight, hospital generators had failed. Nurses moved stretchers by candlelight. Parents cradled feverish children on makeshift cots in gymnasiums that echoed with coughing in the hum of anxious prayer. Schools turned into shelters. Classrooms were gutted. Books floated against chalkboards. Children huddled on benches, wrapped in mosquito nets and thin towels, listening to the rain drum endlessly on corrugated roofs above their heads. It wasn't just water overpowering concrete. It was a collapse of trust, of care, of preparation. Because this wasn't a new storm, but what protected us from the last one hadn't been touched since. A 2025 audit by India's Ministry of Rural Development found 42% of monsoon-exposed village roads hadn't been reinforced in 8 years. In Bangladesh, the drainage master plan guiding the capital's defenses, written in 2013, 12 years ago, 12 monsoons ago. And the rains that fall now aren't anything like the ones that fell then. In Afghanistan's mountain regions, entire hillsides have become death traps. Landslide-prone zones haven't been updated by satellite in more than a decade. That means no new maps, no new risk assessments, and no warning for the families who still build homes along these crumbling slopes. They're not living beside danger, they're living inside it. Infrastructure doesn't only fail when it collapses, it fails when no one inspects it, when no one updates the data, when no one allocates the funds, when reports are shelved and responsibilities forgotten. And then, when it all comes down, when a bridge drops into the river like a snapped tree limb, or a dam begins to leak from hairline cracks that should have been sealed years ago, someone stands at a podium and calls it unexpected. But what's unexpected about a road falling apart when no one checked it since the last flood washed away the shoulder? What's surprising about a hospital losing power when no backup system has ever been tested? The truth is, the monsoon isn't a failure, it's the spotlight. It doesn't destroy randomly, it reveals. It shows us where we cut corners, where we looked away, where we gambled lives in the hope that maybe this year the rain wouldn't come so hard. But it did, and it always will. And the ones who pay the price aren't the ones signing the audits. They're the ones standing barefoot in a ruined classroom, or digging with bare hands through a collapsed road, trying to reach someone who didn't make it out. Infrastructure isn't invisible, and if we keep pretending it is, then every storm becomes a sentence, and South Asia will keep drowning in disasters that were never natural. It used to be simple. One district, one warning, one storm. You could draw the lines on a map and say, this is where it ends. But not anymore. The 2025 monsoon moved like a serpent across borders. It began in Nepal, swelling rivers before slipping into India's northeast. It flooded Assam before rising into Bangladesh, drowning rice fields and railways. Then it shifted west, smashing into Pakistan's northern provinces. And from there, it looped around to southern China before dropping a sky's worth of water on South Korea. Disaster moved like a storm with a passport. Rain doesn't respect borders, and floods don't stop for customs checks. But our responses still do. Still divided by jurisdiction, by language, by old systems that pretend weather is local. In Pakistan, provinces argued over who should activate emergency relief. In India, states waited for central approval before deploying reinforcements. In Nepal, communities were forced to rely on private helicopters because the national response was stretched too thin. The monsoon is now a national threat, and unless we treat it like one, we'll keep sending help too late, too few, for too little. Climate doesn't care where your country starts, and it certainly doesn't care where it ends. Lives lost matter, each one a name, a face, a family. But monsoons take more than that. They take childhoods, displacing schools, flooding playgrounds. They take crops, costing South Asia billions in food losses this season alone. They take dreams, destroying years of savings in a single wave. And they leave behind trauma. Women giving birth on rooftops. Children were swept from their parents' arms. Entire towns watching their streets turn into rivers. They leave behind the sound of crying that doesn't stop even when the rain does. They leave behind fear of the next cloud, the next thunderclap, the next time. Some families sleep with life jackets by the bed. Others teach their toddlers to swim before they can read. Because in flood zones, survival is a skill children must learn early. When the sky clears, when the cameras leave, when the hashtags fade, who rebuilds and who pays? Relief efforts are temporary, but the damage is generational. South Asia needs more than sandbags and promises. It needs regional coordination, real-time flood forecasting, cross-border water diplomacy. It needs to stop pretending this is normal. Because nothing about burying children in soaked soil is normal. Nothing about dragging lifeless bodies from rivers that used to feed us is normal. We can't keep rebuilding on top of broken systems and calling it resilience. We can't wait for the next flood to test what we already know is failing. This isn't recovery, it's repetition, and the cost of silence is measured in graves. There's something cruel about a flood. It doesn't just drown homes, it drowns history. It doesn't just steal lives, it steals time. When it recedes, it leaves behind questions. Why weren't the early warnings enough? Why were decades-old maps still being used? Why did we build so close to the rivers that have always known how to rise? If you're watching this, it means you weren't in the water. It means you still have a voice. Use it. Speak for the girl in Sylhet who hasn't seen her home in weeks. Speak for the father in Sindh who couldn't carry both children. Speak for the scientist who warned of GLOFs and was ignored. This monsoon was not a surprise. It was a forecast fulfilled. And next year, it may be worse. So let this not just be a story of rain. Let it be a story of reckoning, of rebuilding, of refusing to look away. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, don't just share it. Ask the questions that matter, because memory is only power when it leads to action.